Hi, everyone. It's the Catholic CEO, Henry Katarna. I'm really happy today to have James Szojka with me. He's got a company called Yard Dawgs, and I know he's going to tell us all about that, and we're going to talk about his faith journey. And so, James, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing fantastic, and I'm super excited to be here.
That's great. That's great. Well, let's just have a quick word about the Catholic CEO. Check out our website, thecatholicceo.com. Check out our project, thecatholiceconomy.com, where we have a place where we try to bring Catholics together to help find each other, to do business with each other. And so take a look at that. Now, getting back to you, James, you know, I'm really happy that you're with us because you're an example to us of a young entrepreneur who's running a business. And so we're going to talk about that. Certainly want to talk about your faith journey. Our audience wants to know, you know, who you are, where did you come from, how does the Catholic faith influence your life, and what's your Catholic faith journey story?
Absolutely. Where would you like me to start?
Start wherever you like, especially at the beginning, I guess.
Sure thing. So came into this beautiful world, 1995. I'm 28 years old. But to start with myself and my journey, definitely my parents, born and raised, myself Catholic. Like so many people in their story, you get to a point where you have a bit of a rebellion phase. I found that I was always going to mass and stuff, but I wasn't asking the hard questions for myself. Why do I believe what I believe? Do I truly believe Jesus is present in the Eucharist? Do I actually, I say the words, but do I actually mean what I say when I do so? Now, going through elementary school, junior high, and high school, I'd say I definitely believe in God. I did my best to have a personal relationship with him. But when it came to the actual Catholicism, I'd probably say I was more so just doing the emotions. One, because that's what I had known to do. My parents raised me to be very obedient to it, and definitely I could ask any questions I wanted to. But being a young, man, I didn't really feel the need to ask the questions. I was just sort of content doing what I was doing there. But as my life sort of progressed, I found that myself in school, I didn't really junior high and high school in particular, I wasn't really living the life that I was called to through God. I was definitely not acting like a son of God. And partly because part of that was probably because I didn't really believe that I was a son of God. I knew I believed in God, I had all those things there, but my actions weren't really in line with the actual beliefs there. Honestly, it wasn't really until I met my wife, who her name is Jane. We've been married almost for 5 years. We have 3 beautiful children. And it wasn't
God bless you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a busy household. It wasn't until I met her though that she really challenged me in my faith, because for her, just being quote unquote Catholic wasn't enough. She wanted to know that I was serious, that I had a personal relationship with Jesus, that I truly was going to help her raise our children in the faith. And I did believe the concept of when you marry someone, your goal is that you're getting married, your vocation of marriage is to help the other person and help yourself get to heaven. That is the number one goal. And she held me to a high standard, and I really loved her, and I wanted to show that. So to do so, I had to start answering those questions that I had avoided answering my whole youth up until that point. I had to start to fill in some I had to start reading books. I had to start finding resources, asking the hard questions to understand it myself, because there were so many things I didn't know. And mind you, there's still plenty of things I don't know, and I probably will never understand. Our faith is so rich in things to know, essentially. But it was through that process that became so important to me. And I'm so thankful that I found her, married her. We're really doing our best to raise a healthy family in that sense. And what's really cool, Henry, is that all of that translated into other parts of my life. It's funny that the more I started to take my faith seriously, the more I started to take myself seriously, in the sense of like, I wanted to hold myself to a higher standard in everything that I did. And that translated greatly into my business. There's almost like, I don't have a graph to show up, because the direct correlation between how much I put more trust in God, and I felt like I've been very blessed in the way that my business has been, and my relationships that have been becoming much more nourished with my family, my friends, my colleagues here at work. The team here is a lot stronger because I, as one of the leaders, have a strong foundation. I have virtues that I'm practicing. I have principles that I'm truly trying to exemplate and share with others. And I do think that it's just translated to so many different parts of my life, because I started to have to take my faith seriously.
It's a very interesting scenario. So and I want to talk about Yard Dawgs quite a bit here in a moment. I still want to try to understand a little bit more about, so, you met Jane, who challenged you in a certain way. So this is what often happens. We get either, it's not that you got knocked off your horse like Saul on the road to Damascus, but you did have a moment in your life where you wanted to achieve something. You wanted to be the husband of Jane and raise children together. And so she challenged you to it. So it was perhaps, I'm not going to use my words emotional, but it was a moment. And then later you're using a somewhat intellectual or prayerful approach. Would that be right? You're trying to live the virtues. How did that happen? Was that a result of the early discussions you had with your then fiance or your then girlfriend, as opposed to later on after marriage?
Well, what I appreciate so much about Jane is that she didn't lead me on in any sort of way. I think, like so many people, they will date somebody for 5, 6, 7 years. They'll move in together. They'll get a dog together. All these things that we see around us today in 2023. But I think it was on the 5th date, Jane said, "Okay, so what are your intentions here? Where are we going with this?" And I thought, oh shoot, that's the question I was expecting to hear for 3, 4, 5 months from now.
That's right.
So but I appreciated that so much because it showed me that she was serious too. Now, we were very young when we got married. I was 23 and she was 21. So it's not like we are desperate to get married and or anything like that. We were serious about it. Like, we did truly see marriage as a vocation. And I didn't want to just have a girlfriend for the sake of having a girlfriend. I did believe that I wanted to find someone that can help me grow my relationship with God. And that was the spark of what I think, and don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of work to do, but that is definitely the start of our journey to faith. And it's definitely helped me along the way too. And she sees the same as well.
Yeah, great. That's great. So, fast forward to, tell us how Yard Dawgs, how did you start that? Where did that come from? What made you do that? And then I'd like to ask you about, how you actually operate with virtue and Catholic principles in that business. But how did you start this thing?
Absolutely. So being an entrepreneur was always something I wanted to do. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. My mom was in financial services. My father was more so in IT and the internet. So being an entrepreneur to me was honestly the normal thing to do because that's what my parents did. Getting a job wasn't really in the question. But when I was in my first year of university, I went to University of Calgary, House Saving School of Business there. And after my first year, I got my tuition bill. I was very thankful that my parents did not pay for my tuition. It was listen, if you don't have to go to school, but if you're going to go to school, you're going to pay for it because I want you to get the value out of it. And that was a huge, my parents, if they've given me one thing, it's a very strong work ethic that I'm very thankful for there. So what happened is that as we were, after the first university, I saw my tuition bill. And I thought, okay, I got to do something this summer. Let's figure it out there. And my brother had a friend who had invited me to this company where they give you this machine called an aerator. And with this machine, it plugs holes in the ground. You go door to door with the machine. And you get like a 30% commission. You do the selling and you do the work if you get the job there. And I remember sitting at the meeting and looking at the people around me and thinking, if I'm doing all of the sales, I'm doing all the marketing, I'm doing all of the work, I want like a 90+ commission. I don't want 30% commission. The only thing that's stopping me from doing this is buying my own machine. So I go home and I Google, how much does this aerator cost? Okay, about $2,700. Well, I don't have $2,700, but I have a friend named Liam who I had worked very well with the year before, just doing some flood restoration in High River during those 2012 floods. I contacted Liam and said, hey, I know there's this machine called an aerator. It costs $2,700. I know we can get about $50 a lawn. I don't know how to do it. Don't know how to sell, but do you want to get this thing with me and let's just go figure it out? And he said, absolutely, let's do it. So we both bought the machine. It came in on my 19th birthday. Wow. And we just started going door to door with the machine. This was in May. I think it was 2014 rather, was when this happened. And we were so bad at sales. We were so bad at knowing what to say, what to do. But one thing that we were willing to do was that we were willing to try, and we were willing to be bad until we could eventually be good. So we started, we presented ourselves very well. I'll give us that. We were two clean cut guys. We weren't We weren't wearing sloppy clothes. We weren't swearing every third word like a lot of people, unfortunately, in this industry were. His typical guy would be all dusty with a cigarette out of his mouth, swearing every third word. So we had a nice clean impression, and people really appreciate that. And a lot of people honestly gave us a shot just because we were had the audacity to ask for the business.
Yeah. Earnest young men with the audacity. I love it.
Yeah, people love that. But what was kind of cool also, Henry, is that once they saw that we actually did a good job, and we showed up when we said we were going to show up, and we charged them what we said we were going to charge them, they started to ask us, oh, do you do this service? Do you do that service? And when you're new in business and somebody's offering to give you money for something, the answer is yes. So people would say things like, oh, well, do you do power ranking? And we'd say, yes. And they'd say, how much do you charge? $110. Okay, when can you do it? We'll do it tomorrow. Sounds great. See you then. You go home, YouTube, what is power raking? Oh,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. It's a machine that rakes the lawn. Oh, shoot, they're $4,000. Oh, but there's one in Kijiji and Medicine Hat for $2,000. Oh, but it's 9 p.m. Oh, but call him anyways. Maybe he'll answer the phone. He answers it. We go meet halfway in Posano, pick it up, go back to my parents' house. It's like midnight, 1 o'clock at night, do a quick practice round, and then show up at the job tomorrow for 10 a.m. and get our $110. So we kept saying yes to jobs as the demand presented itself. And that was a bit of a blessing and a curse. It helped us really get a lot of exposure to different types of services that we could provide for clients. It helped build our first little client list and learn how to get really good at sales and doing job in the lawn care industry. But after about 4 or 5 years later, this is after I had now proposed to Jane, get married and everything. I talked to Liam because we were now graduating university, and we were thinking, okay, we're graduating. I did business marketing. He did engineering at University of Saskatchewan. We asked ourselves, do we want to do this? Or should we go get a real job like our parents are probably praying we do? Well, you know what? Let's give it 1 full year, full time. So let's do some services in the winter, because we're not going to school anymore, and let's just see where it goes from there. Now, I wasn't super passionate about the industry. I'm actually very allergic to grass. So, but I like definitely the part where I like the customer interactions. I love the sales. I love the marketing, and I love the building people up aspect of it. So we decided to go in if we were going to go all in at this, we had to determine what our niche was. So we looked at what are the 5 services we do that are the most profitable, and also what are the 5 services that we are the best at, and where do we believe there's actually a demand in the market. And we determined that was in the part of lawn care that helps make grass green, healthy, and weed free. So it wasn't the cutting the grass, it wasn't washing the windows, it wasn't doing spring cleanups. It was things like packages that do fertilizer, weed control, aeration, seeding, and soil enhancements. And we put together 4 different packages that incorporated those services, and that's sort of where our company was born. And we didn't start up as Yard Dawgs either. We actually were JL Lawn Care, one for J for James, L for Liam. But it was only after a few jobs that we finished doing their power raking or whatever service we were doing. And she comes out and says, oh, guys, thank you so much for the work you're doing. You're JL Lawn Care, right? I'm like, yeah, we are. Yeah, no worries at all. She's like, no, but seriously, thank you so much. Good job, guys. I'm like, yes, no, you're welcome. I mean, thank you for paying for us. But she was being very persistent about things. She would say, you know what, good for you guys. You obviously had a very rough start in your life, but you made the most out of it, and here you are. I'm like, sorry, what do you mean? She's like, oh, well, JL Lawn Care, you guys are like ex-convicts, right? Like jail, right? And so like after that job, we're like, we need a new name. And I don't know how she got that, but she got it. Other people probably got it too. So then we went home that night. We all, we were having a beer and stuff, and we got to figure out a new name. Somebody said Yard, somebody said Dogs, and Yard Dawgs was born.
Yeah. Working like a dog. Yeah, I love it. It's great. And, the misunderstandings that get us into business. I'm particularly interested in at the very beginning, how bad you were at sales, but you must have had that first customer, and you've now perfected the art of selling, and I know you love it. But tell us what was the first customer? Did they give you a break? Did you do a good job with the first customer?
Yeah, no, his name was Anthony. He was in Silver Springs. I remember he was 3 doors down from Liam's parents' house. And this is after we got like 7 no's in a row sort of thing there. We did a good job. It was just a core aeration. Liam did the job. I went to the next house to start selling and keep practicing my pitch, of course. And Anthony has been a client for 9 years now. So it's been, I think we did a good job. He stayed with us. The retention rate's 100% with him. So I think that's good news there. But we were willing to be bad. I think that's a big thing that I always tell people when they start up their business is like, what do you recommend? Or when they ask me for advice, like I always say, be willing to not be good. And you build confidence and you build competency by doing ordinary things for an extraordinary amount of time, an extraordinary long amount of time. And you start to convince yourself that you are good at it because you've given yourself so much proof that you can do something well. And that's where confidence comes from. That's where skills are developed. And, it's been 9 years now. We have over 4,000 residential clients. We have 11 trucks, and there's 16 of us at the company full time.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So this is a growth story as well. But if somebody, let's dig into this before we get to the how are you running this according to Catholic virtue and so on. But if somebody came to you and said, somebody out of university said, hey, I want to do what you do, what would you say are the, I don't know, let's make this up, the top 3 pieces of advice you'd give them? You've told a great story. What would you say to somebody else who wants to start a business, whether it's this kind or another kind?
Absolutely. So the number one thing I'd probably tell people right off the bat is that you need to adopt the mentality of what you don't know is more important than what you currently know. So the information you don't know is a lot more valuable to you. So you need to go figure that out. Who you don't know is more important than you currently know. So wherever you think you are right now, if you're going to be successful at what you're doing, you're going to have to read a lot of books. You're going to have to watch a lot of YouTube videos. You're going to have to practice doing things and get better because who you are right now isn't what you could be. So my number one thing is like, be open to learning and learning quickly and failing as quickly as you can, because through failure, you will find success, but you have to be able to do it quick enough, and you might as well do it, or you have to do it for sure. So you might as well get over with quickly. Go make some mistakes because you're going to learn so much from doing that.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing I'd say. The second thing I'd definitely say is you got to learn how to, even before you learn how to competently do something, you have to learn, in my opinion, how to sell it. Because if you can never get yourself for a job, you will never get good at a job. You get good at through doing. And I think it's completely fine to be completely honest with you. If someone came to me and says, how do I get my first 10 mowing clients? I'd say, you start knocking on doors and you be honest. Hey, listen, I've just started this job. This is what I was doing before. This is my James. Like I would say, hi there, my name is James. I've actually just started my own lawn mowing business. And I've just started this things up, and I was wondering if you'd give me a chance. I'm actually willing to do your job today for free if you'd be open to writing me a Google review afterwards to help get the word out. You do the job, they get a review that helps you build some SEO, some organic reach there on the internet. And honestly, people will probably give you a tip because they feel bad for you doing it for free, especially if you did a good job.
Yeah,
so
the mercy approach.
The mercy would kick in, absolutely. So I would learn how to talk about your services in a very competent way. Sell yourself. Be honest that this is new to you so that people actually have a lower expectation of the quality, and use that to build your skills to actually become more competent. That's the second thing I'd recommend. And the third thing for me, I truly believe in entrepreneurship. We are called to build a team and find people that are better than us at the job. So as an entrepreneur, I do not want to be a solopreneur. I do not want anything to rely on James, because the second that when people call, they only want to talk to James, or when a technician goes to somebody's house and they only want James to do it, I have failed as an entrepreneur because I have built James, not Yard Dawgs. I haven't built a brand. So I want to build people up. I'm allergic to grass. I literally can't go do the jobs. I would be coughing every single night and not being able to sleep. So that helped me focus on something my dad always told me was focus on building, and he got it from Michael Gerber with the E-Myth. Focus on working on your business, not working in your business, because your business will only be an extension of yourself, and you're finite. You're limited. But if you build a business and a system, it's going to work whether you're there or not. It doesn't mean you're going to be absent, but it means you're going to be focusing on what has the highest leverage throughout the business. So those would be my 3 recommendations there. Be willing to get really good at sales, learn how to do that. Be like a sponge where you're going to learn as much things as possible. Be willing to take mistakes. And thirdly, do it yourself to start, but be very oriented on building a team so that you're not a slave to your business.
Yeah, these are great pieces of advice, great tips. And I want to give a shout out to your dad. You know that the audience doesn't know this, but I know your father, and good for him for passing on those values to him. So my best regards to your dad, because I know that he was instrumental in helping you build some kind of an entrepreneurial spirit that let you take this, that allowed you to, or let you feel free to take this risk, So,
Yeah.
so what could I ask you then? What mistakes have you made in business? What lessons have you learned that you'd like to pass on to somebody else, in case there are any?
Do we have an hour for this interview, or do you have 5 hours? Because I could definitely take up the entire time. So I'm going to talk about my mistakes. Plenty of mistakes. One is last year, 2022 was actually a very important year for us, because we made probably the most mistakes in 2022. So far, 2023, we've been having a phenomenal season because of the lessons we've learned from the mistakes in 2021 going into 2022. So one, we tried to grow too early. We actually went to Edmonton and Red Deer last year, and we had a mentality that worked for us earlier on, is that if we want to be a quote unquote $1 million business, let's start to act like one. Let's start to act like we have a big team. Let's start doing meetings like it's a big team and an important team quality. Let's start focusing on building the systems as if we were already there, and that's going to help us achieve the desired outcome. But we took it too far. We picked up some overhead that we couldn't sustain. We got those offices, we got the trucks, we got the staff, and we weren't able to. We forgot that, hey, when we started, it was out of our parents' garage with $0 a month in rent. And we started one client at a time. So we overextended ourselves. We made some big financial risks. We got too many trucks last year, and those mistakes were expensive, but I honestly wouldn't go back in time and undo it, because I needed that lesson to learn that financials were not our strong suit. And back to that first lesson that I mentioned, one thing that my business partner Liam did is he really took it upon himself to, I'm going to learn as much as I can about financials for this kind of an industry, so that we never make this mistake again. He, over the winter, enrolled in some Harvard accounting courses. We did a lot of learning through reading books, and again, YouTube videos. YouTube has been a huge part of our business growing, just looking up what to learn there. And as a result, we're in a much better financial situation this year because of the mistakes we made last year. So that was definitely a huge mistake. I've made mistakes on hiring people too quickly. I find that it's funny. So how sometimes you need to hear a lesson, or you need to hear advice from more than one person before the advice truly hits home. Whenever I go home to my wife and I say, so we're doing this now because this person said this, sometimes she'll say, I told you that 2 months ago and you didn't listen to me. I'm like, I just needed it to come into my head a little bit differently, I guess. But my wife was always saying, make sure you check the references. Right. And in our industry, it can be sometimes challenging to find quality people. We're a blue collar industry, and there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. However, sometimes we get applicants that aren't, they don't meet our standards of the type of work that we promise our Yard Dawg clients. So we would hire people that were the wrong person, even though it was for the right seat. So the problem with having the wrong person on the bus is that they break some types of core values that you've determined there, because there came a point of time where our business was bringing in people, but people were going out the door just as quickly. We weren't retaining our employees very well. And we started to ask ourselves, we read a book by Gino Wickman called Traction. And Traction talks about the right people in the right seats. And a company, whether you think so or not, you actually have core values. Just as yourself, when Jane and I got married, we had core values that were non-negotiable. So for example, are you pro-life? Because if the answer is no, I'm out of here. So things like that, like, hey, are we going to be open to children? That's a core value of ours that we're going to have. So for our business, we decided, okay, everybody that's worked out here, what core values did they have? And everybody that didn't work out here, what kind of core values did they break? And it took us many years to develop the core values that we have right now. But through trial and error, we determined what our core values were. And now when we hire somebody, we hire and we fire based on these core values. So if somebody comes in, they got to pass the core value test. And for us, the 5 core values that we have, you can't have a single no on any of them. And for only 2 of them, you're allowed to have a plus minus. Like you sometimes do exemplary these core values and sometimes you don't. But the other three you got to have. And if people start to break those core values, we have a strike system in place so that the wrong people get out of our company quickly, because we don't want them to bring down the average of the team. I truly believe that you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. And at work, we're here together, 8 to 10 hours a day during the busy season. We better all be held to a certain standard.
Yeah. So let's drill into this standard a little bit. What is it? Is it a religious standard? Is it a principle standard? Is it a professional practice and just performance standard? Tell us a bit more, because we're going to move now into the virtues that you're going to try to do in your business. So you've got this screening criteria. Tell us more about it.
Absolutely. So what's important for us, one thing I don't like is that, these days you're supposed to have certain human resources rules. So you're not allowed to ask somebody what their faith is. You're not allowed to ask them what their political affiliation is there. That being said, as an employee, you don't have to ask, because you can tell if you have an actual conversation with somebody. Within 10 minutes, you can tell where they stand on a lot of things like that. Now, do I need somebody to be does someone need to be Catholic to work here? Absolutely not. Do I need someone to have Christian values to work here? Absolutely. Because when I hire someone with Christian values, they're not going to steal behind my back. They are not, and don't get me wrong, there are bad Catholics out there, and there are bad Christians who would do that. But if somebody truly exemplifies the values of a Christian, they are going to live by the 10 Commandments, and they're going to live the golden rule. So what's important for us, like one core value, for example, is extreme ownership. What extreme ownership means is that it's okay to make mistakes, but if you made a mistake, own up to it. You know what? Make sure that, hey, I did this, it didn't work out. I accept the consequences of my actions, and here's what I'm going to do about it. That applies to so many things, because we actually encourage people to fail here. Like, we need to fail to succeed. And I don't want you to feel like it's bad to fail. Now, obviously, don't risk at all. Don't take unnecessary risks, but be okay to make a mistake. And if you make a mistake, own up to it, because you will learn so much more if you take ownership in the mistakes that you do. Another core value that's ours is that everything is earned, nothing is given. We have a very entitled generation sometimes. Every generation is entitled in their own ways, don't get me wrong, but entitlement doesn't work out here, because one thing Liam and I started with, thank God our parents did not give us much. They gave us a lot of support. We always had a place to go called home. We had food on the table. But when it came to extra things, like you want a car, you go pay for it. If you want to have a cell phone, you're going to pay for it. And we had to work hard for the things we had. The first vehicle we ever had was this rusted out 1995 Toyota Previa with no muffler on it. So you heard us before we even showed up.
You heard the Yard Dawgs a block away.
Exactly. But everything earned, nothing given is such a strong core value here, because one thing that I'm sure you and I will touch on quite shortly here is that we do pay for performance here. That means that our technicians in the field, they have their minimum hourly rate. That's always going to be there as a safeguard. But if I was working at a grocery store and I stocked my aisle quicker than he stocked his aisle, and my quality was the same, I worked harder than he did, because I knew that he was kind of, half-assed in his job. Why should I be paid the same hourly rate as him? I want to encourage people to take ownership in what they're doing. And hey, if you're going to come and you're going to bust your tail and you want to actually get paid a day's wage in 6 to 7 hours, I'm going to give you that opportunity. Now, you put safeties in place, obviously, so that people aren't cutting corners during that, because we don't want that either. But I want people, being in the sales background that I have, I want there to be sort of like a commission for production. So doing jobs, guys will actually get paid a percentage of their revenue. And the minimum threshold is their hourly wage. So they never make lower than their hourly wage. But I don't want people making the hourly wage. I want them surpassing that, so that they learn how to be more efficient. And when the company has inefficiencies, for example, hey, I don't like how the way we do X, Y, Z, because it actually is not a very efficient way to do it. If they're getting paid on performance, they're going to take the time to let us know how to make improvements in the business. If they're hourly, they don't care. They're getting paid hourly, whether it takes them 8 hours, 10 hours, and whatnot there. This incentivizes and holds the office and managers to a high standard, because it helps us make their lives easier, because they're holding us accountable too.
Yeah. And so this is important. So you've got an incentive program in place. You've got, does it produce, I mean, I would hope it does, but let's see if it does. Does it produce that stickiness factor where you get people to come back season after season? I don't know if they're full-time. You've got probably, I know your industry to some extent, you'll have a lot of part-timers that will go away for the season unless you do snow work or something like that. But has this worked in your business?
So in all transparency, this is the second year we're doing it, and our retention for our technicians was going from last year to this year. It is a high turnover industry because we have a lot of students too.
Sure.
So when a student graduates, they have different aspirations that they're shooting for. But it has helped their retention. But even more importantly to me is that it's really helped the morale of the team. People aren't talking about hourly wage, and they're not talking about it's not fair, it's not fair. People take extreme ownership now, and they look in the mirror and say, they're asking questions. Like if there's one person on the team that is able to do so much more production value in less time, people are asking the questions at the weekly meeting. Hey, what are you doing differently? Because I want those numbers you want, because I want that paycheck in the 80% of the time that it's taking me right now. So it's holding people to a higher standard there. And I think like what's so cool this year that's never happened before, and I think that's a huge part of it, when the guys get back from the shift, they're not piecing out and getting out as quickly as they can. They're actually sticking around for half an hour to 2 hours sometimes on a Friday afternoon. Like, what are you doing here? They're playing ping pong upstairs. They're talking. They're helping each other unload their trucks because they want to be here. And I've never seen that before. And this because we really took the time this year to hire slow, pay people truly what they're worth, and give them an incentive program where, hey, if you're going to put in an effort, we're going to reward you. Everything earned, nothing given means that we're not going to give you something that's not due. But when something is due, you bet we're going to give it to you. We just did profit sharing this month for the first time. That we've never done profit sharing before. We included it this year. We pay a percentage off the variance. Every single employee at this company got a $750 check on top of their monthly payroll, and they weren't expecting that. Like we had some things in place to be eligible for profit sharing, such as you're never late one day, and you don't have any core value strikes. I think those are our two criteria. But everybody got that bonus, and everybody so far in June after that May profit sharing is working. They're working just as hard, if not harder, because they know that they got rewarded, and there's a little bit of a boost to their confidence in us. And I hope that can just transpire and pay dividends and continue to grow and compound over time.
Yeah, this is one of the things we see all the time at the Catholic CEO. We talk to our clients and we say to them, the Catholic business actually should do more than what the minimum that the law requires, or more than what everybody else does, because we're Catholics. We want to support family. We want to support, a living wage, let's say, or we have some values. And so what you're doing, you're showing people, I'm really happy to hear this. You're showing that you can do it. You do your math, you got your numbers crunched, you got some profit sharing, you got some incentives and so on. So, this is Catholic in its own way. We're now heading into the practice of virtues, which I want to ask you about, but I have one other question first. Do you publicly, are you an open book company so that do they see what everybody else is getting for performance pay, or is it held confidentially? That's a tricky question for a lot of businesses. What do you do?
Yeah, we're fully open book here. The reason for that too is because I believe the right people are motivated by competition. So for example, if somebody doesn't want their numbers to be shown, it's probably because they're not the highest performer. And I want people at this company that when they see somebody, they're here and they see somebody up here, they don't blame the system. They don't say it's not fair. They say, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. What's the difference there? That encourages me to keep going there. And another big thing that I want to stress here, Henry, because I realize that not everybody, and us, it took us 9 years to actually really understand our numbers and then the business works here, that if we don't show them the numbers, the natural employee mentality is that they are going to assume the owners make a lot more money than they do, and the expenses of the business are a lot less. So they're going to start to look at me because I'm in my office and I'm on the phone all day doing sales and everything. They're going to look at me and say, I'm here busting my tail for James, so he's making the big bucks. That's not true, because we have a business here where let me show you how much it costs to do the fertilization, the weed control, to pay for these trucks, to pay for this rent, to pay for these overhead staff. Let me show you so that you understand. And by me showing you, I think you're going to have a greater appreciation for what your work is, what your role is, how you contribute to the gross profit, and how we contribute from there to the net profit, how we work together to make this cog and then the system work. And I hope that this can transpire into your own personal financial life, where if you understand the way a business works financially, you're going to start to look at your own mortgage rent payments. You're going to look at your own food bills. Am I eating out too much, maybe because it's affecting my bottom line, the money that I have to take over? Am I paying myself first? I think these habits translate into the personal life too. And if we're truly a team here, let's not, like a true sports team, they know how many times they missed the shot, how many shots they took, how many times were their assists. They know all the stats and details. Let's work together to achieve a profit. And that's why we do the profit sharing, because it's not just for myself and Liam. We're going to share this and work together as a team. Profits are we are not a nonprofit. I'm very proud to be a for-profit company, because in my opinion, profit equals efficiency. How profitable we are is how efficient we deliver a service to a need in the marketplace.
That's right. And that's how we create a Catholic economy. I mean, I'll put words in your mouth maybe a little bit here, but we create a Catholic economy because we can create an economic powerhouse. If we have a lot of businesses like yours, well, we're in a position then to be profitable, to stay longer, maybe grow, hire a bunch of people, support families, do all those Catholic things. But at the same time, we can become an economic force then. We can resist the culture. We can do things that are, so I'm giving a speech now, but that's what we can do. And so when just one more quick question on the open book. So do they see the entire financial statement of the business?
Yeah, we show them everything. We show them the profit and loss statement. They don't see the balance sheet, and they don't see the statements of cash flows, but they see the entire P&L on a month-by-month basis to determine what the profit was there.
And that's a gutsy move. Many people are afraid to do that, but what you're showing us is that it can be done, and it doesn't hurt you. It actually brings a kind of an appreciation for the different roles, because when the guys see you in your office, they think you're sitting around in your office maybe, but you're actually performing a key function. If you don't bring those sales in and you don't get the gigs for the boys and girls, well, then you've got a problem in the business. So this is very interesting. I'd like to turn quickly to your partnership. Many people say, and I don't know if you want to reveal this to us all, but you've got a partner. The two of you work together in the business. Are you the co-owners? Tell us stories about how that works, because most people say that a 50-50 partnership, I'm not sure if that's what it is, but a 50-50 partnership will inevitably fail because you can't come to a consensus. There's a disagreement. What's the situation? How do you guys operate as business partners? 9 years now, coming on, your 10th anniversary will be soon.
Absolutely. So Liam and I, we went to the same kindergarten, junior high, and high school together. But honestly, we didn't really start becoming good friends until grade 12. We were just friends. We knew each other, played here and there in elementary school, but we weren't actually truly friends until grade 12. And I think the reason why the partnership has worked so well is because we are good at different things. So many people go into and we are 50-50 partners, by the way. Sometimes people go into 50-50 partnerships with people that are just like them. In my opinion, that's foolish, because why would you give up half the company for someone that's exactly like you, bringing all the same things to the table? Yeah. I want somebody that's very different than I myself, even for marriage. Why would I marry someone that's just like me? We're not going to challenge each other. We're not going to encourage each other to make up, to challenge our weaknesses. And like, my strengths complement Liam's weaknesses, and he has many strengths that complement mine, and that helps us grow. Don't get me wrong, being a partnership is challenging. It absolutely is. Yeah. But it's also challenging not to be in a partnership. There are risks associated with both. I can't imagine what these past 9 years without Liam, because there's been great times and there's been really hard times. And there's something special about going through the bad and the good with somebody, because we have each other's back. And there's something magical about this. Like, hey, right now, times are hard. We're going through some not great moments, but you're here with me, and we're going to make or break trying together. And having a best friend with you during that time has been so invaluable for me. I could not have done this without Liam. And I like to think he could have done it without me, but I'll let him speak to that point himself. But you know what, it's been great, and the pros, in my opinion, have greatly outweighed the cons. I've had many people say to me, well, partnerships don't work. Well, I know other entrepreneurs, but partnerships work fantastically. And I do think one of the main criteria is you need to have the same values. So of course, for me, a partnership, what was important to me, like Liam, he is Catholic, he is Christian, you know, and like we don't have to agree with everything. I don't want to agree with anything, but I want to make sure the same values are there. I want to know that we have the same values about family, and same values about money, and the same values about how we treat people with integrity and dignity, and like they're also a child of God, which they are. I think that's important. But do we need to agree with the way we always do things? No. In fact, we shouldn't, because if we don't agree, it means one of us has different information than the other one does, and it forces us to talk about it. And communication is what makes marriages and business partnerships work or fall apart. So that's been just so valuable for us to focus on talking. And we have a rule: unless we both agree, we don't move forward.
Yeah, I love this point. You know, in a family business that I'm involved in with my brother and my sisters, we had a value like that at the very beginning. Unless we all agree, it's a consensus model. Unless we all agree, we don't do it. And you can make your case. We never vote. We never have a vote. So what you're saying is you and Liam are strong partners. You have the same values. And you've just described what you're, you know, I wouldn't call it a dispute resolution mechanism, but, you know, that's a term that's out there. But you come to a consensus on something. And if you don't agree, you don't do it. Has this model hurt or helped your business? And that's a loaded question, I know, but, you know.
It's helped us much more than it's been that it's hurt us. Because have there been times where we were both 100% wrong? Yeah, there were times, but at least maybe it took us a little bit slower to act on it, instead of it just be myself, I'm going to go for this sort of thing. And I bet you the recovery was a lot quicker, because again, we were in this together, and now we have two minds working at solving this problem that's affecting both of us. But no, it's not as a perfect system. No, those don't exist. It's riskier to is it a risk to have what we have? Yeah. But it's also, in my opinion, riskier to not have what we have. So in life, you're going to make your sacrifice. You're going to have your risks, and it's all about mitigating those the best you can.
Yeah, understood. So here's another angle. So I know of several friends of the Catholic CEO in the United States who have businesses, and actually some of them are in a related field. I'm thinking of one in particular, somewhat related, not exactly what you do, but kind of related. And they are Catholics who own a business. And they are somewhat overt in their business about their faith. They hire people who are not Catholic, but they have a set of principles that they use as a criteria. So they're doing something like you're doing. However, they will say to their employees, well, we're going to pray before work. We're going to, you know, I don't know, once a month or something, we're going to have a little Bible study, and we're going to, oh, and by the way, we're knocking off early today because it's our feast day, or we're going to mass. What about the overt Catholic practice of your faith, which at home I know you practice, I know that you do? What do you do at work and in the shop and in the business?
For sure. So I do believe that evangelization is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And I totally subscribe to the works of Opus Dei in the way that they evangelize. And I truly believe that my actions will always speak louder than my words. And nobody will listen to what I say if they're watching what I'm doing and it's not in line with each other. So yes. I try to live my life and exemplify what I do, so that I can exemplify the light of God that's actually in me. And I want people to say sometimes, you know what, James is not like a regular person. He is different. And what is that? And I want them to ask the questions themselves, and maybe bring it up with me, or just look at what I'm doing. I have no problem having an icon in my office, because that's part, and I have no problem having the rosary with me. Am I telling people to pray with me or to come and mass with me? No, they're welcome to, and I have no problem sharing that. Hey, Good Friday, I'm taking off at 2:00 to make the 3 p.m. service. I have no problem mentioning things like that. But people have their own faith journey, and I want them to feel like this is a place that is foundation. The founders do have these principles, and I hope that that foundation can build a strong enough base that people can be evangelized in our actions. And yeah, I think it's just one day at a time. Every interaction, like I try to just do my best to be an example.
Great, it's great. Let's talk, James, about what you would say to families out there, because there are many parents, they look at their children, their teenage children, their young adult children. You're a young man yourself. You've gone through this. What would you tell a parent? Now, you are a parent yourself, I know that, but what would you say to parents who have teenagers who are trying to prepare them for, the entrepreneurial life or a more independent life, or they're afraid that their children are going to go into corporate jobs where the woke culture is going to start telling them to do certain things that are inimical to the faith? What would be your advice? How do parents do it? What would you say to the parents today about this?
Sure thing. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on the subject, because I'm not. I have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and an 8-month-old. But what I'm going to do with my children is that I'm going to do my very best to encourage a home environment where asking questions is the normal thing to do. I want them to be able to talk to me about anything, and I want them to confide in myself and in Jane, and I want them to bring us the hard questions, because one, there's going to be, and if I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell them I don't know the answer, and I'm going to work hard to figure out the answer for them, because if they don't have someone to go to, like a parent, they're going to be going to the internet, and they're going to go to social media to find those answers, and that's the last thing that I want. So I want to make sure that we have a household that encourages conversations and talks about those important issues. I want to talk about politics, and I want to talk about money, and I want to talk about sexual identity at our home, so that we can give them the tools, the knowledge to be strong out there, to give the tools. Not talking about faith, family, sex, all those things does not talking about it does not help your children, because the conversation is going to come up and they need to be prepared. So we are going to do our very best to encourage a household that has those conversations. And what I would encourage parents is that sometimes what I struggle with sometimes is that when my child is going through a hard time, my 3-year-old, for example, and I have to always remember that she is a baby still. So I don't want to be too tough on her, but I do want to encourage her to, it's okay to make mistakes. And I'm not going to nitpick her, and I'm not going to have her be scared of making mistakes with me. So for example, I will let her help me make her mother's coffee in the morning, even though I know it's going to make a huge mess on the counter, and I'm going to spend 5 minutes to clean up afterwards. Because if I say, no, I'll do it, she will never have the experiences of making mistakes and slowly getting good at things. So I want my kids to know I'm okay with them making mistakes, but you can talk to dad about anything. Anything is on the table, and I will do my best to find you the truth. We will do our best to find the truth together and encourage them to make mistakes. And I hope that by doing that through my life, I don't have to worry about them when they're adults and teenagers, because I know that when they go into the world, because I don't believe in sheltering them from the world forever. No. I believe that when they go out into the world, they will have the tools they need to succeed in those trying times where they are tempted, where they do go through adversity. And will they fail? You betcha. But I hope that we have the sacrament of confession. We have so many graces given to us where we can actually get back on our feet and keep striding towards, in this case, the ultimate goal, getting to heaven.
Yeah, excellent. So let's turn it around a little bit. Somebody's, I don't know, 14 years old, 15 years old, 16 years old. They look at you maybe and they say, well, okay, there's a successful guy. He's got, 17 trucks. He's got, 16 employees, whatever. And he's lucky, or, people don't see from the outside what actually goes on in the inside. What would you say to a young, let's say a teenage person who's, in school trying to see what they want to do in life? Do you have any observations or lessons for them? Because, you went through this all yourself, and you're in business almost 10 years now. Mm-hmm. What would you say to the young teenage person that's looking at you, or looking at what do they do in their life?
Sure thing. So I hope that I will always have the humility to be able to tell people and not forget where we started, because we did start, like, we were very blessed in the sense that we always had a place to call home. Liam and I, we both had phenomenal parents who are still, they've been married for 35 plus years. We've been extremely blessed because so many people can often say the same thing. So you might call it luck. I do think that I have been blessed in that sense, but we have worked for what we've had, and we have not been given handouts. We have not been spoiled, and that was probably the best thing that ever could have happened for us. So I would tell someone, if you think you are underdog, or if you think you have it worse, that is in your favor, because if you're a true entrepreneur, that will give you so much hunger and desire to go make something of yourself, because you know that you have the ability and you have some sort of some desire that's not fulfilled. And we all know that that desire is Jesus, essentially. But how do we get there? I believe that young men are called to get there through responsibility and through work, and by actually building a business, by working on a trade or learning. It doesn't have to be a business. It can be becoming very good at a trade, going all in. I'm going to be the best plumber possible, but because by me learning to be the best plumber I possibly can be, that's going to teach me how to be a good employer. And maybe if I'm a good employer, I could actually run a business in this trade. It's going to, you being disadvantaged or thinking you have it worse is your biggest advantage, because you can see things that the kids that were entitled, spoiled, they can't see, because you've got to work to get your allowance. You've got to go out there and get your paycheck, because nothing's given to you. And that's going to build a work ethic that if you lose it all, you're going to get it all back, because it's who you've become is what's important, not what you had. And that's what I tell young men, or young anyone, like a woman too, that wanted to do something, that let's turn your disadvantage to an advantage, and it's all about your perspective on the situation.
Yeah, my brother has a saying that to achieve many things that he's achieved, people ask him, well, how did you get that? How did you end up at this point? And he used to say necessity. Mm-hmm. And it's a famous phrase. So James, let's take a look. Let's say the next 10 years. From the business perspective, what are you looking out for? What are you anticipating? What are the risks and the dangers that you might see? We do have a lot of viewers here that are going to be, they're not just doing startups, they're at a stage like maybe you are. What would you say about, I don't know, make the next decade? What is going to happen to the next decade? What do you see in the world? What would be your observation about that?
Sure thing. So I think a big elephant in the room is how is artificial intelligence going to affect my business? How is it going to affect my role where I'm working at, when you have these softwares like ChatGPT that are doing these, these English, all these huge word-based things that are looks like it's really doing replacements. And my answer to some things like how our industry is changing, because they're changing all the time. But I think in my industry, what I love about it is that at the end of the day, when I'm talking to people on the phone, we don't have sales tactics here. We don't have tricks up our sleeves. We talk to the person like they are a person. And people, even though, yes, we do have our online chat bot where people come to our website to at least start the conversation, and we have our IVR systems when people call in, at the end of the day, we never want to take away the option for somebody to talk to a person, because we physically have to go to somebody's house to get the lawn done. Will robots be doing lawn care one day? Maybe. And if that happens, it's going to encourage us to innovate. But for now, my foreseeable future, a person is going to get in that truck and he's going to go there and he's going to give that customer unparalleled customer experience that's unlike anything they've ever seen. They're going to make their grass green, healthy, and weed free, and they're going to do it with a smile. And they're going to treat that lawn like it's their grandmother's lawn with so much pride and professionalism. When people call in, like, I don't know about you, Henry, but when I call my bank because I have some sort of credit card dispute, I hate going through those endless menus and wait on hold. I just want to talk to a person, and that is never going to go away. So what the big thing with AI changing things, I want you to think of this as just a tool, something that's going on. Is it going to change industries? Yeah, you betcha. But what's never going to go away is the personal touch. People remember how you made them feel. And with Yard Dawgs, yes, all we do is make grass green and weed free. This isn't life-changing stuff. This isn't a heart surgery by any means, but it's someone's home. And the way that their grass helps them feel good about their place, where they live. It's part of their kingdom. Like someone's property is that small little piece of the world that's actually theirs, and they want their children to go play soccer in the backyard without stepping on prickly thistles and things like that. So we can still focus on something that's never going to go away, which is our desire to be important and our desire to have human interactions, because we are social beings. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, we need each other. So exactly. I'd encourage always focus on the people side of your business, because that's never going away.
This is we're on the same wavelength there for sure, because I have always said, and I continually preach this, the Catholic business should actually, get rid of call centers and have some real person answer the phone and do customer discovery that's real and be honest and not have tricks up their sleeve for marketing. We can do all that by being honest and authentic and also full of virtue, truth and justice and charity and all these things. So this is good. Maybe one more question about finances. Banks lend you money, and now this is not a trick question, but banks lend you money when you don't need it, and when you need it, they don't come to you. What has been your experience with financing? Is this a completely bootstrapped business? It sounds like it to me, but what's your experience with financing, debt, and that sort of thing as a way to grow a business? People are concerned about that.
I think debt is about leverage, and it's okay to take on debt if you have a plan for it. So for example, we are a bootstrap business. We started from the ground up. There was no, in all transparency, I borrowed $500 from my brothers to buy that aerator, and I paid them back in about a week there. So, but we bought everything ourselves. We were debt free until we got to a certain point where we wanted to get a fleet of trucks. So at that point, we did go into debt to start to do a commercial lease to have these trucks to get that going there. But the way we saw it was, well, we have this fleet right now that's getting a little bit older. We're paying X amount per year on repairs. They're not super reliable. And what's more expensive than paying a lease payment? Well, having a truck that breaks down in the middle of the day and not doing the 20 jobs that guy said he was going to do, and having to go call 20 people and say, we're not going to be there today. That is expensive, and that is more expensive than the actual lease payment there. So I think debt, if you're going to take it on, know what you are doing. Because for example, if you bought a home during COVID and the prices were low, the odds are you took out a mortgage to do so. So you now have the leveraged money to do so. But now, past what's going on with house prices right now, they're skyrocketing. You would have made a good decision, and you had to take on debt, because if you sell that home and it's your primary residence, those gains are yours. They're not taxable. But there's things like that where leverage and debt can be a good thing, but may take on unnecessary debt, and do not take unnecessary risks. Here, we have nice trucks, but do we have the top model of F-150s? The limiteds driving around? No. Do we have the best quality fertilizer spreader? Yes, but do we have the fancier ones that look a little bit nicer? We're paying for that? No. I don't know, the way I see money is it's all about being efficient with things. For example, as an owner of this company, could I pay myself more? The answer is yes. But right now, this year, I am considered the technical sales manager, and I pay myself a market-based wage, because if I overpaid this position, for me to replace this position, or for me not pay myself at all, some owners make the mistake of not paying themselves a market-based wage, and that's a mistake because it inflates the value of your business. Because if you were to leave, you'd have to go hire somebody to do that position there.
That's right. Exactly. So, yeah. It's valuation. Yeah.
Exactly. Evaluation in everything you do. Pay for the quality, but don't pay for the premium. So for example, if you're going to go buy a used car, I believe don't buy the cheapest thing you can possibly get, because you're going to spend way more at the repair shop than if you would have just bought a reliable Honda Accord, for example, and you paid, let's use an example, you pay $8,000 for a Honda Accord instead of $2,000 for a piece of crap. Do I need to go buy a $100,000 Range Rover? No, because the Accord gets me there too. But I want to make sure that I have a reliable vehicle. I'm happy to spend the money to make sure that the quality is there. But do I need to pay the premium tax on things in a business? No. And your business should be as lean as possible. And one thing that we've learned as a seasonal business, because we actually only do services 6 months, 7 months out of the year here in Canada, well, we need to know how to keep overhead down, especially during the winter months, because if we don't, those will kill us. So it's just things like that. And that's all learned through trial and error. You can read books, you can hear stories, but You need to make mistakes to really get the
living
lesson
it
hit home.
yourself and recovering from your own mistake, digging yourself out of your own hole. We've all done
100%.
that, and it's a great lesson. Well,
100%.
James, we've reached the natural end of our time together. We could go on for a long time about this, and it's been very valuable. Maybe you could, in our wrap up here, can you tell us, where do we find you? What's your website? Do you guys have, what's your customer base? How far away from your home base can we actually come and use your services?
Yeah, so we're a local lawn care company. So unfortunately, to be qualified as a client, and you have to be a residential home with a lawn under 10,000 square feet, but you're going to be in Calgary, Airdrie, Chestermere, Okotoks, or Cochrane. And you can reach us at Yard Dawgs, which is DAWGS, so yarddawgs.ca or yarddawgslawncare.ca. A simple Google search of Yard Dawgs will suffice. And phone number is 587-254-2337. And if anybody ever wanted to email me anything about questions about their business or things like that, they can always reach me at my email, which is my first initial and last name. So that's JSZOJKA@yarddawgs.ca.
Great, wonderful. Well, it's been a real pleasure to speak with you today, and I'm glad that you are where you are, a great success, and God bless you and your family and your business partner and all of your team. So thanks again, James, for being with us.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. And I owe it all to God, and I owe it all to my wife, for sure, for encouraging me the way I did my faith. Because like I said, that was a pivotal moment to my entrepreneurial journey. If I didn't have a good support system back at home, if my partnership at home wasn't working, my partnership here wouldn't be working. So I give all my thanks to my wife and to God and my parents, of course, for giving me the great foundation in life that I needed to get to us where we're going. And we still got a long way to go. I don't want to pretend like it's an overnight success and that we're there. We will never stop improving.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. No, it's a wonderful journey. So God bless you again, and thanks very much. And so everyone, it's the Catholic CEO, Henry Katarna. Thanks for being with us today. We'll see you next time.